Sisters engaging everyone. We inspire you to be the best that you can become. Uplift and empower you with stories we share. No one else can compare to Sisters engaging everyone.
Hello, and welcome to Sisters Engaging Everyone. Come on in and join me this Thursday evening for a poetry read from the great late Tupac Shakur. We're just going to read a couple or one of his poems today, and then next Thursday I'll read another. But before we get started, please hit that like, subscribe, and share this video. Also hit that notification bell as it'll let you know each time we drop a video. I'm going to go ahead and read, and this is called The Rose That Grew from Concrete. And the insert, to our children. We must support our children in every way we can. We must allow our children freedom to express themselves creatively. We must praise our children and thank them for their gift of inspiration. We must motivate our children spiritually. We must challenge our children to a higher level of achievement. We must increase our children's self-confidence and improve their overall quality of life. So we say to our children, draw, paint, write, act, sing, dance, think, express, and be free to dream always. I was a great fan of Tupac's literature for the simple fact that it takes a creative mind to write and inspire others by your writing. And with that being said, I thought he was a phenomenal writer, very profound in his thinking, and he didn't always get the credit for that. So I want to say thank you, Tupac. Now I will read the preface from his mom, Afeni Shakur. Celebrate life through the music, through the spoken word, through the splatter of color on paper or wood or iron or canvas. But celebrate your life. Celebrate your ability to feel joy and sadness. Celebrate your ability to feel, and only then will you be free to feel. I thank God and all my ancestors for the artistic Tupac. For the poetic Tupac, there was never a day when Tupac didn't appreciate language. The sound and the rhythm of words did not intimidate him. He sought to interpret his world using all the visual and linguistic tools available to him. The battle between the discipline of intellect and the ravings of the soul is a fascinating one. These poems were written from 1989 to 1991, reflecting the heart and soul of my son. They represent the process of a young artist's journey to understand and accept a world of unthinkable contradictions. I always believe Tupac's work can and does speak for itself. I have nothing to add or detract. My responsibility is to do all I can to make sure he has been heard in venues and milieus that are appropriate to what he himself gave to his life and his work. Tupac put these poems in the safekeeping of Leila Steinnberg, who was Tupac's first professional manager and adult friend. We are indebted to Leila for her integrity in looking after the safety of Tupac's work. Her loyalty has allowed us the ability to offer this work in this medium. Tupac had quite a few friends whose actions regarding his artistic integrity reflect a subconscious belief that he is still in the room. We thank all of his peers, friends, and business associates who continue to act as though Tupac were still in the room. Thank you, my beautiful and wonderful son. You're a perfect mirror of my soul. When you're not here, I measure the space you used to occupy. Large areas become vast and endless deserts of you. Not there. Afeni, Shakur. Beautiful. I'm going to read the foreword, See You in Heaven, by Nikki Giovanni, who was a prolific poet and writer. I'm glad this collection of poetry of Tupac Shakur is being published. Those of us who recognize not only genius but light knew early on that the young Shakur was special. He lit up the screen in juice and above the rim. His raps were tight and strong. We all said to ourselves, something good is coming. I guess it will always be that case when someone brings a new idea, or more accurately, a truthful idea. There will be complaints. There will always be those people, especially those people who are wrong, who try to shut the truth and daring down. I remember when the Sugar Hill Gang started, the new rap revolution, and they were fun. Grandmothers in stupid movies could imitate their rap, and old men could return from cocoon and break dance. It was just so, cute to play off rap. Then along came Tupac. You don't see any seniors take off on his art. You don't see Whom Crony and his friends hip-hopping down the street to "Holla if you see me." No garden parties with grandma bopping to Something to Die For. So they found a name, gangster rap, to somehow distinguish it from what? Polite, nice, highly compromised rap? They tried to isolate that beautiful boy who was trying to bring on the truth so they could flood us with lies and excuses. People will still stand up and say really stupid things like, I don't think profane language should be used, or they are always cursing and stuff. I don't think they can make their point without bad language. But I always think language is school vouchers, lower taxes on capital gains, don't ask, don't tell, and language like that, which silently or not so silently kills people who are different from what we want to think we are, but who, in truth, are not so different after all. Children have to be educated. The correct citizens to pay taxes are those who have money. People have a right to their own hearts, but mostly what I keep seeing is the emptiness of lives that have nothing better to do than to judge and condemn. Tupac once said, "Only God can judge me." I say good for him. He had taken that step to understand that no matter what any of them say, you have an obligation to the universe to follow your own muse. I like Tupac Shakur in the same way I liked Prince when he was Prince. when he wrote music that was a bit edgy, a bit out there, a bit daring. Whatever turned that beautiful boy, that rude boy, into a whiny symbol should rot in 5 different hells. Tupac stayed fresh and strong and committed to himself and his people. Yet, as this collection shows, he was a sensitive soul. The poems for the lovers in this life, for his mother, for his child in heaven, show a boy who touches our soul. This too is Tupac. Just as people want to make Malcolm X an integrationist, thereby changing the nature of his daring and his truth, people want us to overlook the sensitivity and love Tupac Shakur shows because, after all, if he loves, if he cries, if he cares, in other words, he is not a monster, then what have we done? What a great crime has been committed in the name of what? The status quo. How awful and ugly of us. One day, in the not too distant future, there will be a gathering in Atlanta, much like the one in Memphis. You remember Memphis and Graceland? The Postmaster General of the United States invited Elvis family members to unveil the artist's concept of Elvis. There was an 800 number for the young, pretty, slim Elvis, and another 800 number for the fat, drugged out Elvis. We, the public, were invited to phone in our choice. That would be the stamp. When the Malcolm X stamp was chosen, there was no gathering at Betty Shabal's home, no calling the girls, Malcolm and Betty's daughters, together with the Postmaster General. No artist conception inviting the public to choose between a smiling Malcolm and the frowny, ugly thing they produced. No choice between a Malcolm and Betty stamp and a Malcolm by himself stamp. In fact, as usual, white people decided what black people should want and did as they wished with the image of our hero. The Tupac stamp must go public. We, the public, demand the right to make choices. I want an image of a thoughtful Tupac with the words, "See you in heaven." He deserves to be taken seriously, and we must therefore mourn. Nikki, Giovanni. How prolific. Now I'm going to read the introduction by Leila Steinnberg. Tupac felt that through art we should incite a new revolution that incorporated the heart, mind, body, spirit, and soul. He wanted his art to instill honesty, integrity, and respect. It was the spring of 1989 in Marin City, when a young man with fan-like eyelashes, overflowing charisma, and the most infectious laugh began to make his way into my life. I was sitting on the grass outside Bayside Elementary School, reading Winnie Mandela's "Part of My Soul Went With Him." A young man with big, beautiful, sparkling eyes came up behind me, quoting lines aloud from the book. It fascinated me that he knew the lines by heart. When he introduced himself as Tupac, I realized he was the Tupac that friends had spoken to me about. I was a writer and producer working in the music industry, and he was an inspiring rapper looking for a manager. I didn't have time to speak at length with him then because I had a class to teach, a multicultural educational program, Young Imaginations. However, I was so impressed with him that I invited him to sit in on my class. After class, Tupac began to share his ideas on how the arts could be included in school curriculums to help youth address some of the issues that they were experiencing in their lives. By combining art with education, Tupac felt he could begin to heal society's pain and confusion. I later invited him to participate in a weekly writing circle I had at my house. His first time there, he immediately took over and decided he would write about what he wanted and not what I wanted. One of the first poems Tupac wrote with us, "The Rose That Grew from Concrete," tells you a great deal about him in just a few lines. Tupac was the rose that grew in spite of all obstacles. His life shows that a young man, boy, could rise, shine, grow, and bloom beyond overbearing conditions to become one of America's most beloved men. He also had the grace to make it all look easy. Tupac's accomplishments in 25 years far surpass what most do in 3 of his lifetimes. These poetry circles continued for a long time. We were all broke and struggling, but Tupac was the only one who ever really tasted poverty. Only he could take potatoes when there was no meat and make the best tacos you ever tasted. And only he could make a gourmet meal out of top ramen noodles. He was a genius who became the group's greatest inspiration. Within 4 weeks of our meeting, Tupac appointed me his manager. It has been several years since Tupac has passed, and a day does not go by that I don't think of him. I kept a collection of the many poems that he wrote during the time of his poetry circle. The following poems show a side of Tupac Amaru Shakur that popular culture has yet to realize existed: pensive, introspective, loving, and concerned about world affairs. There is no better way to get inside the mind and heart of an artist than to examine his artistic expression. I hope these poems allow those who are fascinated by Tupac to see his sensitivity, insight, revolutionary mind, fears, passion, and sense of humor. Tupac's stature and recognition as a rapper is clear and unequivocal. However, his place as a literary artist, poet, has yet to be recognized. I hope these poems, which Tupac wrote from his heart, will encourage people to take the first steps necessary to see his literary importance, as well as have us acknowledge the life struggles of young Black men. When Tupac was 19, this poetry is free from the restraints of the music industry and all monetary pressures. It is free of the anger that came from getting shot, betrayed, and thrown in jail for a crime I believe he never committed. It is Tupac before his fame. For the past 7 years, Tupac's writings have been one of the most powerful teaching tools. I have participated in programs in schools, youth facilities, and a number of prisons all over the country. My most exciting work began in 1997 when Arvand Elihu invited me to participate in History 98, the poetry and history of Tupac Shakur. This was a class Arvand was developing at UC Berkeley. Students from all races and backgrounds participated, discussing such issues as single parenting and poverty. Students and universities throughout the country have requested the teachings materials that Arvan compiled to initiate their own Tupac curriculum. Tupac finally being recognized by academia. In the summer of 1998, I assisted Afeni Shakur, Tupac's mother, in developing the first annual Summer Youth Conference, Life Goes On. We spent more than a weekend in Sparta, Georgia, using Tupac's lyrics to conduct workshops that resulted in bringing new life into the hearts and minds of those in attendance. Participants traveled all over the nation to take advantage of the healing tool Tupac left us, his words. The following August, I was invited as a delegate to the International Women's Convention in Johannesburg, South Africa, to conduct a workshop with Enid Pickett on the power of art in education. Once again, the curriculum was based around Tupac's writing. I have since been invited to the Netherlands and Costa Rica to conduct similar programming. Now, Tupac's work, and especially these poems, are all available to the public. I hope that they can attract the attention of those who have not given Tupac a fair chance. The same people who are quick to judge Tupac based on the media's sometimes negative portrayal. Tupac's poems can teach us about universal needs that textbooks rarely address. Poems such as, "And tomorrow, and still I wait for the dawn," speak of the need to survive and wait for a better day. They also teach us that humanity as a whole suffers. If anyone starves, unfortunately, it took his death to teach us that when one man dies, we all bleed. Leila Steinnberg. And now the first poem from his collection, The Rose That Grew from Concrete. All of his poems are handwritten as well as typewritten. The Rose That Grew from Concrete. Did you hear about the rose that grew from a crack in the concrete? Proving nature's law wrong, it learned to walk without having feet. Funny it seems, but by keeping its dreams, it learned to breathe fresh air. Long live the rose that grew from concrete when no one else even cared. That was profound. And if you come back and join me next Thursday, I'll read another of his poems out of his collection, The Rose That Grew from Concrete. Thank you for taking the time to sit with me. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed it. And I look forward to next time. Bye.